Thank you so much for joining us today on Coffee With. My guest today is Mary Ruth Jones. Mary Ruth, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I appreciate you coming. I ran into you at the theater the other night.
Right.
And we got to talking, and I said, oh, I have got to interview you.
Well, we did have fun talking.
It was fun, wasn't it?
It
The
was.
play was great.
Play was great.
People
and
should go.
And I'm so happy about the revival of the Strand.
It looked fabulous.
You know, I used to go to the movies there when I was young. There were 4 theaters in Vicksburg: the Joy, the Alamo, the Sanger, and the Strand. And it's just a great. And as a matter of fact, my husband and I owned that building at one time. I think I mentioned that to you the other night.
Did you really?
Well, we owned the furniture store adjacent to it.
Uh-huh.
It was Feld Furniture and Interiors, and that was part of the package property that we bought. I was just mentioning to Jack Burns, we never did anything with it. We walked over there and looked at it and thought it was so unrelated to our business. But there were memorabilia in there from the movies, big posters of the movie stars, and it had that nostalgic feel and smell to it. So I was really thrilled to see how well they have restored it.
They did a great job.
They did.
And they do have some memorabilia in there.
They
have
do.
the old popcorn machine.
They do.
The original one, I think, that was in there.
I think you're right.
And they had some film and some movie reels actually inside the. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I
inside
didn't
the
notice
popcorn
that.
machine. And they had a couple of other things that was, it was just really neat to.
It is, and
to
it's
look
great.
at.
It's great also that it's downtown,
Yes.
and I think that will be a big boon to downtown.
Yes.
So with actually the venue at the Coral Room and
Yes.
the one there, it's doable for almost anything that you might want. to
Well,
do.
and Candy Palmertree is getting ready to reopen the old.
Oh, that's
72
right.
room.
Yes.
She just found out that she got all the approval and is getting ready to get her
Wonderful.
privilege license. So she's getting ready to open soon.
And I think it's going to be like the old Southern Tea Room. That's what I heard anyway.
Yes.
Of course, we all grew up with that. You
Yeah.
know.
I'm looking forward.
I am too. The baked chicken and the corn pudding.
And
the-
she's going to have, on the nights where there's theater, she'll have a pre-theater.
Oh, that's wonderful.
dinner,
It's
I
wonderful.
think it's going to be great. Live music. She's
Live
a little bar
music.
in there.
Yes. Well, we need to promote any way we can.
Absolutely.
Promote the downtown because that's going to help the merchants too.
Absolutely.
And I think it'll be a give and take thing. I think they'll be thrilled to support the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Jack and I were just talking a few moments ago about what was coming up and how we were going to promote it, and so we're hopeful.
No, I think it's going to be great. Okay, now you are a woman of many interests, many activities, and I don't even know where to start because I really don't even know all the things that you do and that you've done. So you just pick somewhere and
Well,
start.
of course, I think we have to start at the beginning.
Okay.
I was born and reared here, 6 generations. My grandparents were forceful people in the community. My grandfather was Chancery Clerk for 42 years, so I grew up in that political arena as far as the county and city is concerned. My grandmother was a formidable person. She was the woman's liver before that was even a word. You know, she thought women. She went to college, and at that point in life, very few women went to college. So I remember her as a dominant force, a wonderful, loving woman, a great avid gardener. But she was out and about, and I being the only grandchild for 7 years, she drugged me everywhere with her, and sometimes literally drugged me to her projects and her people that she was seeing and doing. So that was an interesting start for me. I was, and I'm sure you were too, I was brought up to believe that you had to contribute and be responsible, and that you, first of all, your responsibility was to your family, secondly to your church, and the third was to your community. And by contributing to the community, I think we contribute to the world at large, even in some small way. I've always felt it was better to be on the side of good than on the side of bad, because love rebounds, you know, and contributing to the people around you, making their lives better, it's a good thing, I think. And so I was educated in the public schools and was graduated from All Saints Episcopal School, and And then I went to Millsaps, where I was subsequently graduated from Millsaps with a degree in philosophy, which is really useful when you're at the grocery store. But that's what I was an English major, and you had to take, at Millsaps, you had to take one course in philosophy. Well, that was all it took. So I changed my major. My sorority sisters used to say to me, if they couldn't find me, I was either on stage or I was in the stacks. And they wouldn't let me stay up in my suite. I had 3 suite mates, and they would not let me stay up late. So I had to, and that, of course, that was before the day of computers and cell phones and all that. I had a regular typewriter, you know.
Yeah.
And they made me go into, after 10 o'clock, they made me go in the laundry room and put the typewriter on an ironing board. And I spent many nights in the laundry room with the ironing board. But I never did my laundry. That was really funny. Someone asked me, not too long ago, I don't know why they were asking me, because it's been years and years and years since I was at Millsaps, but I still stay connected. And they said, now tell me, my daughter's going to Millsaps, tell me about the food. And I went, oh gosh, I don't remember much about the food. I ate across the street at the drugstore. And then they said, well, what about the laundry? And this blank look must have come on my face. And I said, I don't remember anything about the laundry. So I mentioned that to one of my suite mates, 2 of whom still live in Jackson. And she said, well, of course you don't remember anything about the laundry. We did your laundry every week. You were off in La La Land. You were either Desdemona, or you were the Helen of Troy, or you were studying some esoteric philosopher. So it was an interesting time in my life. And of course, I married and came back to Vicksburg. And those years were motherhood years.
How many children did you
I
have?
only have 1 child. And so that's what I did for, as we all do, you know. I mothered and drove carpools and was in the PTA and all those sorts of things. And then I played a lot of tennis, and then I decided it was time to jump in and do something for the community. So someone lovingly said to me, you were either in or the president of everything except the Knights of Columbus, and they wouldn't let you in. So I did a lot of that, book club, and at that point we had a University Women's Club here. That was great. Loved that, because you got such a cross-section of people. And junior auxiliary, and all the things that we do to support our community. Mm-hmm. That was a little phase in itself, you know. And then, of course, interspersed and the foundation of all that was my theater work. I started out in high school with The Importance of Being Earnest, which was a great start. I played Cecily Cardew. And actually, Buddy Hallberg was in that production. We both got our starts there. Uh-huh. We were exactly the same age, 4 days difference in our age.
Oh, my goodness.
And we went through kindergarten, grammar school, high school, and then, of course, he went to Ole Miss and I went to Millsaps. But we did start out there together. And that was the beginning of my... When I was in... I'm probably telling you things I shouldn't tell you. When I was in grammar school, I made up and acted in some situational comedy that I created, and I would perform. My teachers would let me perform in front of my class. Isn't that awful? Perform in front of my class.
The kids loved it.
Well, actually, I think they must have, or they'd have thrown something at me, you know. But I got started there, and I did a few things in high school, and then I did The Importance of Being Earnest, which was our senior play. And then I was off and running, and Shuki Habib, I don't know if you ever knew Shuki Habib, but he was a great man, and he taught me a great deal. And of course, I started out at Golden Hills, and I played Little Nell longer than any woman should play Little Nell. And you know, that was when it was on the Sprague, and that was perfect and wonderful. And I had to work for perhaps 2 months with Shufi and Walter Johnson, who played the hero. Shufi played the villain, before they would even let me go down there and get on stage. But they taught me well, and they taught me that melodrama is not funny if you play it for laughs. It's only funny if you play it straight. Mm-hmm. had a wonderful time down there for years. And then when the boat burned, it just never was quite the same. Mm-hmm. So I dropped being a little loud, and it was high time I quit trying to be the ingenue. So, but I started out at the theater, and the theater was over on Beaumont Avenue. I think you and I discussed that the other night. It was a wonderful venue. It reminds me very much of the Strand venue. I started out with something called Affairs of State, which is, and then, I went on to things like Hedda Gabler and Auntie Mame, and I did Private Lives. I did Any Wednesday. And one of the things we did, there were 4 of us, Elliot Trimble from Natchez and Gloria Dudding, who's gone on to glory and is center stage in heaven, I'm sure, and myself and Buddy. I wrote and compiled excerpts from a great many of Shakespeare's plays, some comedic, some tragic. Put it together, and we did it at the Playhouse on Beaumont Avenue, and we played, in those days, we played 10 days and usually ran over.
Goodness.
It was a wonderful experience. Everyone seemed to like it, so we got this bug in our head that we would take it on tour in Mississippi, which we did. If you can imagine the gall of us to go taking it on tour. And in fact, Buddy Hallberg said to me one time, I think we were in Sardis, and he said, I am quite sure that I am the only man who has ever worn tights on a street in Sardis in the daytime. We had a wonderful run. We did. We had a wonderful run. And one of my favorite plays was The Owl and the Pussycat, but there were only 2 people in it. The trauma of that was you knew that once that person finished his lines, you were next.
Yeah.
You were next
and
up.
You better know what
and
you better
know
say,
what
right?
you were going to say. I did Streetcar, and
you've done so much.
Yeah, well, I love it. You know, I do. And
are you still performing?
Well, you know, I had this absence. And I'm not really sure why. There were a lot of reasons. I had remarried, and my husband was traveling some, and I was going with him. And then my husband and I started a business, Vicksburg Mirrors. So we had to be in showrooms all over the country 4, 5, 6 times a year. That was pretty involving. So that played a lot into the fact that I didn't do any theater. I did have a great run at Jackson at New Stage. I started out with Ivan Ryder when it was on Gallatin Street in a church. It was a wonderful venue. You could reach out and touch the person on the first row, so you better know what you were doing. It demanded, that's a totally different concept of acting, and you have to adjust yourself to the intimacy of that theater. And that was fun to learn to do that. I did some great plays there, Father's Day and Taming of the Shrew, and 6 Rooms, Riverview, and Joe Egg, and a whole lot of theater there. And I adored the director, Robyn Lea. It was wonderful. And I did a couple of plays after that theater moved to their new venue, but I still like the old one. I just like that intimate theater experience.
Yeah.
But I did a little cameo role in My Fair Lady about 5 years ago, and that was fun. My friend and great director from Jackson, James Anderson, directed it, and he cajoled me into coming and doing it. And I enjoyed it. The cast was great. We had a good time. But I do a lot of presentations involved in my church. I have a little one-woman show that I do around, and I'm involved with the Chimneyville Players out of Jackson.
Well, what's the one-woman show? Well,
it's a compilation of things that I really adore. The written word. It's not all somber. There are some great heart-rending portions that are in there, but mainly it's comic, and I love doing it. It's great fun to make people laugh and to remember things that I did it not long ago, and one of the things in there was Annabelle Lee, and I cannot tell you the people who came up to me and said, I remember Annabelle Lee when I was in high school, I had to memorize Annabelle Lee. And, you know, that is all part of the give and take. And it's fun to do things that you think people appreciate. I might say, and I'm very involved with my church. I'm president of the church women.
And where do you go to church?
Holy Trinity. I'm a member of the Flower Guild. I used to sing in the choir, but I did that for a long time, but I'm not doing that right now. But I'm very involved there, and I have several civic projects that I'm very involved in and very much support, because as I said, I think that's important, and so I try to do that. But I will mention, if I may, that there is in the offing perhaps a production at the Strand, and I'm not at liberty to say what it is, but I can just say that it is a very fine piece of work, and it's something that everyone will recognize. Very small cast.
And would it involve you?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Yeah, it will. And it's something I've wanted to do for several years, and I think it's coming to fruition. So we should know something by mid-July. And I'll be really eager to work in that venue. I'll be eager to work. I'd go out on the street corner if I thought anybody would listen to me. But very few people do listen to me. I found that. No, but I think there again, it's part of the giving back process. You know, I'm just interested in it, and I think you and I talked about this the other night. I don't think anything can take the place of live theater. It's just something about the spontaneity of it, and people get so accustomed to this television. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it, because there's some great things on television. I've done a lot of...
It's just being in the theater.
Being a part of
it. You've got the cast, and you've got the audience. And the performance of the night, there was live music.
Right.
Which is pretty unusual these days.
It is.
You know? I mean, it was just... And it was a funny production.
It was.
It was for people.
Right.
I mean, it was... I mean, people shouldn't miss it. It's $15. Even if you go and you're like, it was okay. I mean, it was $15. No, it was $15.
And you're with other people who care about theater. And,
sure.
And I think it's very important to do that, and it's fun to be there, and the excitement of the... And, you know, I've always contended that people did not have to know anything about theater to know whether it was good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's some inevitable force that passes between the players and the audience. And if something is done well, they know it. And you can see an audience just sort of catch on fire. I don't know what happens, and they may not know anything about why it was good. I just, something came to my mind that's just, you know, when you're in the theater, you have so many funny things that happen that you could just write 14 books. When we were doing Annie Mae, I had 2 dressers, and that was really essential. And the dresser in a production like that is more important than the person who's in it, because split-second changes, lots and lots of changes. I had wonderful costumes. And I had these 2 ladies dressing me. And there's one scene, if you remember, in Annie Mae, where she's been in the or some such thing, and she's got these bells all over that are clang, 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 clang. I can remember going off stage right, and there were the 2 dressers holding up the next costume, and I got the bells all wrapped around my arms and my head, and they're clanging, and I'm going, oh no, this can't be, I have to be back there in 3 seconds. Somehow or other, I got out there, sans bells, thanks to those 2 dressers. I will always be grateful to those 2 ladies, because they were so patient and so organized. I mean, all all that goes on behind the scenes, as you well know, is so critical.
Well, just in this production the other night, every scene had a stage change.
Absolutely.
And every stage change took about 3 or 4 people.
Yes.
So you think about, that's a lot of planning and preparation
and
things
rehearsal.
Organized behind the scenes. Yeah, it's not just rehearsing the lines. Mm-hmm. It's rehearsing stuff on
all
there,
the props.
off of there.
Yes.
Where's the fork? Where's
right.
the flowers?
Absolutely.
Where's this? Where's that?
Oh, that reminds me of that infamous story, which I may have repeated to you when we were chatting the other night. There's this famous thing, I don't remember the name of the play, on Broadway, and there are 2 people in it, and they're sitting, she in a chair and he on the sofa, and they're conversing, doing their lines, and everything's going on fine, and the prop guy, or woman, whomever, made a mistake, and the telephone rang. So they're just like glassy-eyed, and they're looking at one another, and she says to him, "The phone is ringing," and he picked it up, and he said, "Hello," and he turned to her and handed her the phone and said, "It's for you."
Oh, that's great.
We've all filled in for one another and picked up, and you just do that.
Yeah.
You do that.
That's funny.
Because by the time you're finished with a play, ready for production, you know everybody's lines. You may not know them to the dotted T and the dot and the cross T, but you know them well enough to jump in there. But I've never really worked with very many people who didn't. One time, the first time I went to New Stage, I was just so excited. And it was a great script. I had a great role. And we went for the first rehearsal, and the director, Ivan Ryder, was, of course, there. And so we were having a read-through. And so I'm proud of myself. I've learned all of my lines. So I just kind of looked down and unobtrusively was going through the lines. He let me go through the whole rehearsal. Then he said, "I'd like to see you." So I thought he's going to tell me how wonderfully smart I am to learn all this. He let me have it. He said, "As long as you're working with me, never learn the lines at this stage, because you have set them in your head, and they may not be the way I want you to see them or feel them." He said, "You can't interreact if you're doing that. Do not do that." So I've always remembered that, and I've never learned any more that soon.
You learned that lesson.
I did learn that lesson. He taught me a lot of things. He was a great coach.
What else are you working on? You've always got like 10 different things going on.
Well,
you have like 10 different jobs and 10 different events, and
well,
I don't know how you know where you're supposed to be or what you're supposed to be doing.
I have a book. Let me tell you, I don't go anywhere without my book, and I do write things down. But I've always done that. I've always been a list maker. I can remember at college, in the dark, because they wouldn't let me turn the light on. I'd be writing, tomorrow I have to do this and this and this and this. I think I got that from my father. My father was just such a brilliant. My father was a potamologist. You know what a potamologist is?
No.
Well, very few people do. They studied the alluvial configurations of bodies of water, and his body of water, on which he was an expert, was the Mississippi River. When the river flows, because of the currents and the eddies and the direction in which it's going, it will often take land from one place and deposit it in another. And the question arises, to whom does that land belong? A lot of state boundaries and questionable, those issues. He was in court for years doing that and was really a renowned in his field. In fact, he's one of the only other 2 people for whom a state boundary line is named. The Supreme Court did that, yes. Bobby Bayless he was the lawyer who went to the Supreme Court and argued a case for which my father had done the preparatory work. And they did name a state boundary for him, which is really interesting.
And what is the name of it?
It's the Austin B. Smith line. It's between Arkansas and Mississippi. So that was exciting. It was a very, very smart man. My mother was the essence of Southern graciousness. She was a lady to the core, So I was very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Now, are you an only child?
I am an only. Can't you tell?
And you have an only child.
And I have an only child.
And do you have a son or a daughter?
And I have a son.
And where is he?
He is in Hattiesburg. He is in the food business. He has a wonderful degree in history and decided he didn't want to get a doctorate and didn't want to teach history. When he was in college to pick up money, pocket money, as we used to say, he was waiting tables. So he got involved in the food industry, which is just probably the most awful business you can be in. I mean, it's so demanding. And so we've had some restaurants, and now he's in gourmet food production. He has a factory in Hattiesburg, and he ships to all of the world.
Really?
Yes, he does.
And do you have any grandchildren?
Oh, do I ever know? Yes, I have 4 grandchildren. My husband Herb has a daughter in New Hampshire, and she has 1 child. Then Jeff and his wife Heather, that's my son, have 3 children: Tyler, Hannah, and Heath. And Hannah will be with me next week. She is a girl to the core. She's our only girl.
And how old is she?
She will be 13. And she's coming to be with me for a week. Go to the pageant.
Now my Hannah is going to be here too. My
Really?
niece. Yeah, she's older than that.
Oh.
She's 21.
Oh.
But I have a Hannah.
Everybody should have a Hannah.
She's a joy. I can't wait. I'm always so excited when she says, "Can I come stay for a few days?"
I feel exactly that same way. I'm always afraid they're going to get to that point where they don't want to be seen with you. What is that thing they say? Just about the time your children quit embarrassing you, you start embarrassing them. So I'm always waiting to go, do they really want to be seen with me? But Herb and I have tried to. I've always said our goal is to teach the ones in Hattiesburg that the world didn't begin and end on Highway 49. So we have taken them on some nice trips and hopefully broadened their horizons.
Yeah.
Their parents are so busy working that they don't have much time to do extended travel. But they are great. They're a real extension of our lives. We're still very close to them. So hopefully that will last.
My niece is 21 and she still hasn't gotten tired.
See, that's so encouraging to me.
Yeah,
it really is, because I just keep thinking any moment when we chat, she's going to go, "Oh, home."
Yeah.
Oh, they'll go.
Yeah. But when you get that undivided attention, it's hard to give that up.
See, and we began, seriously taking care of our grandchildren when they were babies. And so there's a long relationship there, and I'm hopeful that it will continue to flourish.
Yeah.
We do everything we can. So it's fun.
Make it
And also I have I went to the Etiquette Institute. I was graduated from the Etiquette Institute in St. Louis, and I've done a great deal of teaching etiquette to children and to adults, and business etiquette was the thing in which I was most interested. That was great. And now I have a wedding business.
And what do you do in your wedding business?
I tell you what to do. No, I handle everything I do it's a lot of behind the scenes work and information gathering, and then I'm in charge of the rehearsal, I'm in charge of the wedding day, and help with the receptions. I don't do the paper towels and the Windex, but I can, outlines and telling people proper work. Organization, and I really enjoy. I've done that for 20 years. And I only just started my own real little business part of it about a year ago. My friends' children were marrying and so forth and so on. And then I thought, maybe I should just do this. And it's been very rewarding. I'm now doing weddings of people that I did not know before. It's such an important time in people's lives that you become involved in their lives. And you really become very, very close. And I think it's wonderful to be involved with people. It makes you a more vital person because you're exposed to how other people see things. Sure. Of course, when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, there's a way I wanted to do it. I have a great friend, David Elliott, is a priest in Jackson, who was our priest here for a long time, and he calls me the wedding Nazi. So when that voice comes out, and they appreciate that. I don't mean that I'm rude or ugly. He was just being facetious.
It's nice to have somebody in charge.
Somebody has to be in charge.
Making decisions.
Well, the deal is that you need to take that worry off of the mother and the bride, because if they know that everything's going to go smoothly, then they can focus on other things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I enjoy it.
Okay, so when I had normal business open hours up at the office, I danced with your husband, and you weren't there.
No, I wasn't there, but I'm coming the next time.
I know I got back to you.
It did.
Now, do y'all dance? Because he was a mighty good dancer.
We love to
I felt
dance.
very inadequate, actually.
Oh, no, he said you were a good dancer. I quizzed him. I did. I quizzed him because, the phone started ringing the next day. Well, did you know
Probably
that?
while we were still out there dancing, your phone started ringing.
I think so. I did. And that was so, I loved it. I just loved it. But I was quizzing him, and I said, did you have, he said, yes, Robyn's a very good dancer. But Herb is a very good dancer.
Yes.
We've always loved to
Well,
dance.
it's easy to dance with somebody that's a strong leader. He was.
Yeah, he's good. He's,
But we were doing right out in the parking lot. We weren't trying to do it behind your back. I mean, like literally, we were right out in the parking lot.
I know.
So you can be rest assured there was no sneaking going on.
well, I would certainly want y'all to be above board if anything's
That's right.
going on. Well, no, he has a great deal of respect for you, and he did have a good time. And he did say, "Do you want to go?" So I said, "I don't know what I was doing. Something. I was at the Salvation Army. I was somewhere." And I didn't go. But after he told me that, I decided the next time I am going.
Better be there.
I'm going
Right.
to go.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything that we didn't go over that you want to be sure and talk about?
Probably not, because I probably talked too much, and I'm not much accustomed to talking about myself.
Well, thank you so much for coming. It was wonderful.
I loved it.
And
I
enjoyed
appreciate it.
And when you have the big announcement tonight, you'll
Oh,
have to
I
come
will.
back.
I will come back.
You and Jack.
Jack and I need to
Okay.
come back,
Yes.
and I want to do that because you're going to be very pleased, I think. And here again, it's going to be a small cast, doable. I mean, it's going to require a great deal of work, but it's going to be something that people are going to really enjoy, I hope. Yeah.
Okay, so when you get ready to announce it,
I'll call you.
because I can't get Jack down here
I'll get Jack down
in
here.
front of the camera. He
You
was
know,
here
Jack.
earlier, but he was behind the camera.
I knew Jack through Buddy, and then when I was doing that little one-woman show one time, I said, I'm not happy with the sound system where I wasn't. So, bless his heart, he arrived with this intricate sound system. He wired me. He showed me what to do. He got the tonal quality. I felt like I could move around because I like to move around like it. So we became
He's a very
good,
resourceful person.
very resourceful, and that would be fun when we do that. We'll do that.
And I just want to say one quick thing before we end about the performance of I Love You, You're Perfect, No Change. Christina Bradway.
Yes.
She was just fantastic.
She was.
Her facial expressions
Right.
and her funny eyes.
Uh-huh.
And she has a beautiful voice.
She does.
She's a very talented young lady.
She is, and I did not know her before that.
Well, I had never met any of them, but they were all great.
Isn't that great that we've got this talent?
Yes. Yeah, and that's just for
That's
people
just for
in this
people.
whole town.
That's right.
That's right.
Oh, there's a lot of talent in this town. And my contention is that you need good directors to see. And I believe a good director can mold almost anybody and bring out their qualities so that they can perform in an admirable way.
Well, I kind of want to give it a try, but I can't.
Well, you should, because
I can't
you
walk
have-
and talk.
Oh, yes, you
Chris,
can.
we tried to tape this one Coffee With series where I had to walk and talk, and I couldn't do it.
You can. You can do it. It's not the same, because when you become that character, when you go into that character, then you will walk and talk as that character would walk and talk, and depending on what the character is. You know?
Okay, well, if you help me with it, I'll do it.
I'll help you.
Right. Thanks, Mary Ruth. I appreciate
I loved it. Thank you for having me.
Promotional consideration provided by
Amber Sanders from Happy Hair. Get your hair happy at 3402 Wisconsin Avenue.